Hello, everybody. Today I'm going to be presenting some possibly controversial opinions about the newest support hero to the game, or strategist hero, and that being Ultron. Ever since he's come out, I've seen people picking him less and less, and I also see people misunderstanding him more and more. Of course, public perception is prone to who's perceiving it. I have my biases. Let's get straight into the Ultron glazing. Just a simple overview of strategists and how I view them. I generally split them into two types, that being primary sustain and angle support. These names are reductive but also self-explanatory. Primary sustain usually focuses on topping up the vanguards, making sure that pushes don't just fail, making sure you can endure pushes, and generally are going to be focused on getting their ultimate charge through healing. Whereas angle supports are either the ones taking the angles or the ones supporting those who are taking angles. And usually they'll do both. Sometimes strategists will have aspects of both. Not all strategists specialize, and some specialize to a fault. For instance, I would say Loki is hardly an angle support at all. Seriously, nothing in his kit is really meant for it. Ultron, specifically, will fall squarely in the angle support, but completely takes over as primary sustain with his ultimate, which I believe is what makes him so strong. Most other strategists in the game do not have this quality of being able to switch which type of strategist they are on a dime. For the kit analysis, we're just going to quickly break down the strengths and weaknesses of the hero. For strengths, he is by far the best vision hero. Not only is his positioning basically free, you can almost position anywhere you want, but he's also very quiet. He is the quietest of all of the flying heroes. He doesn't have big ass red ring like Storm. He doesn't have like persistent rocket sounds like Iron Man, and he can afford to do less than Human Torch is doing. Human Torch, if he's not doing anything, he's like useless. Whereas Ultron, if he's just looking for things, that's precious and crucial, and you don't have to make noise to get this done. He also consistently pressures from most any angle. I really cannot think of a hero that straight up just gets around this strength. I'm actually struggling to think of a single hero that cannot be pressured by Ultron, because he will find a way. He will find an angle that you either have to split your attention from, or you're like looking up so you're not seeing anything else, or you're like looking at this wall so all these other heroes rotating beside you don't come into vision. And just the pressure alone, it can suppress a lot of the enemy team's flexibility. Can they push? Well, Luna Snow's half health. Can they rotate easily? Well, Strange is like a third of his health. It's very difficult to get away from the pressure of Ultron. Another strength is that he has a very difficult hit hurt box while moving. This should just say difficult to hit hurt box while moving. This isn't really true just when he's moving, but especially while he's moving, his body's hurt box sways side to side very suddenly. His hips have the snatched buff of they're not very consistent to hit. And while his upper body does remain rather fixed, his entire body turns as he does. And that basically is what you want in a hurt box, ones that you can rotate it, you can move it very suddenly. He just has the best type of hurt box. He also has what I would designate as a non-ultimate. So it sounds like a downside, but non-ultimates to me, other examples would be like Iron Man ultimate or even Emma Frost ultimate, where the hero that gets the ultimate is quite strong at getting those ultimates, like they get them very fast. And if you commit to them to the fight, whether they work or not, you're usually okay with it. They're the type of ultimate that having one on a team, 1 to 2, is very strong, because you can counterplay certain things without, like, oh, I committed Luna Snow ult, but we didn't actually do a whole lot with it, so now it feels really bad, and I don't have it for next fight. Instead, he just has it nearly every fight. It's very consistently strong. It just resets Vanguards instantly. If you even like splash the healing onto anybody that's not a Vanguard, they get set to full health very quickly. And there are certain heroes and ultimates that he completely blows out of the water with Rage of Ultron, his ultimate. The next strength we're going to talk about is that he has very strong counterplay tools for other strong ultimates, but also bad matchups. Being the best vision hero in the game means there's literally no excuse to not see Black Panther. Spider-Man can be tough just because by the time you see him, you're about half a second away from getting engaged on. But even that can be enough, especially to position near your other support to try and live and survive. He also can just give himself 100 bonus health out of nowhere. And with other heroes that give him even more, Mr. Fantastic, Rocket Raccoon, Penny with the team up, he is very difficult to kill even when you have an advantageous matchup against him. So he's not very easy to like just shut down with a bad matchup or strong ultimates. He has the least ult charge invasive of any angle support. It's hard to word this without it just sounding terrible, but most angle supports have a quality where they're very invasive to the primary sustain hero for the ultimate charge. Adam Warlock does this, Mantis does this, you could even argue like Cloak and Dagger kind of does it. I don't think they're an angle support, but you get the idea. They top up heroes very quickly, basically before the primary sustain hero can do anything about it, but Ultron's like invasive healing is not very fast, and it's also not the type to top up teammates that have taken quite a bit of damage. So out of the invasive strategists that kind of leech ultimate charge from their other strategist, he is by far the least invasive, simply because of how the healing works. He also has a very deceptive amount of save ability. As it turns out, giving someone 50 bonus health and then giving them a very persistent heal is pretty deceptive, especially because their health bar is going to be low, so it can actually bait overcommitments from the enemy team. And depending on when you give them drone plus shield, they can be at such a health threshold where people will just compulsively dive in and then pay for it. Moving on to his weaknesses, his hurt box is entirely frozen during his ultimate, down to it does not rotate when you turn. This is this is such a funny weakness to see people ignore, because they will just get swat out of the air like a fly, and if you don't play this game, Ultron makes some very interesting noises when he dies in his ultimate. I'll just leave it at that. Another weakness of his is he has very inconsistent pickoff potential. Basically, the only heroes you're going to pick off with this pressure are isolated heroes that are just being completely neglected by the enemy strategists. Sometimes his other flyers, actually. So I would say he does lose to Iron Man and Storm, but he doesn't lose to Human Torch. And you can literally just dash in their face, beam them, and just melee twice. Beam, melee twice. Like, you can just smack them around, and you can actually pick off any isolated targets that are being neglected by their strategists. Another weakness of his is just poor burst healing. The drone doesn't give that much healing per second, and even with his ultimate, the startup delay does factor into the burst healing, right? Luna Snow does not struggle with that. It's completely instant. Cloak and Dagger, kind of depends if you're on top of the target. There's no delay. Whereas for Ultron, he has to actually, at the most fragile timing for his survivability, he has to wait, and yeah. He's also reliant on team proximity to solo reset. There are many strategists in this game that are actually not capable of solo resetting. And resetting just means topping up your health, not wasting a lot of resources to do it, and not jeopardizing your position, or solo implies not having your other strategists do it. Cloak and Dagger is a very good example of a hero that really struggles, because unless you're going to just use the dagger for yourself, resetting yourself solo, it actually requires you to get in sniffing distance of a hero of actually any kind, even an enemy hero, and get the splash from your own daggers. It's pretty bad. But Ultron, he's kind of in the middle of struggling with that. He needs team proximity. He needs a guy that's near him that isn't just gonna get shot with him. Because usually you're trying to reset somewhere around 50 to 100 health, and if you just get hella one-tapped, you're not resetting, as it turns out. He also relies on long, sustained fights. He really hates fights where Enemies are trying to decide the fight in like 10 seconds. He also hates fights where any of his like healing over time or the delay on his ultimate gets really exploited. He's absolutely the poster child of I popped ult and 3 of my teammates died before the first shot came out. So you're really relying on these fights that go on for a while, and you're also relying on them because you are usually going to have your ultimate first out of any hero in the game. And if a fight is ending too early, that advantage never comes into play. And having your ultimate for the next fight after the first one ends isn't actually going to matter because you're not going to be the only one with an ultimate. He also loses to Iron Man and Storm. Storm does have to have her ring set to lightning and then use the lightning boost to start shocking you, but you do lose to her. And he also loses to Iron Man. Storm's ultimate and Iron Man's ultimate, you can counterplay it. Storm is more lethal to you, whereas Iron Man really has to go out of his way to hit you with his. But just the general matchup, Iron Man beams you faster. You actually need help from your strategist to win that. And Storm just threatens so much burst damage on you, and the ultimate's a pain in the ass to deal with. He also struggles in split fights innately. We'll talk about a way to actually mitigate this weakness. But his drone has several properties for how it needs to maintain. You need to stay within, I'd say it's an extra meter of the drone attachment range where you can actually put it on them. You also have to stay within line of sight, and the grace period for violating either of these conditions is 5 seconds. So it does stay on there, but getting a drone on somebody that's already too far away is difficult. Replacing a drone that has worn off because LOS or distance concerns, it's kind of a struggle. And if you don't want to use your movement ability, repositioning is not very fast for him. It's the same as every other hero in the game. No mobility means your positioning is hypercritical. When to pick him? The first and foremost is when they have an exploitable enemy backline. If they have the gall to pick like double angle supports that are really resource driven to not die, like Mantis, Atom, Warlock, then you can exploit that pretty heavily. At some point, they will run out of resources and you will just keep beaming them and you will basically suppress their entire backline. Another reason you would pick him is because obviously the primary sustain is already covered. Luna Snow, Cloak and Dagger, Invisible Woman, Rocket Raccoon. If any of those are in the game, you can just pick Ultron. It's going to be fine. You also want to pick him if you have resource cycling vanguards. So not Thor, not Penny Parker, and not, let's see, probably, I don't actually know. Mainly not those two. Those are not resource cyclers. They suck ass at keeping themselves alive without like consistent sustain from two strategists. Whereas your Magnetos of the world, your Emma Frosts, your Hulks, your Things, your Venoms, Doctor Strange is probably the weakest of these, but he still has resource cycling. All of these heroes have a way to mitigate damage while your healing does its thing and while your primary sustain is topping up other heroes. They have ways of stalling the, why is Ultron the only guy healing me? I'm going to die. You can also pick him with isolated or hypermobile duelists. This includes other flyers, and isolated duelists are usually duelists that want to take like off angles and then reset quickly and then take off angles again. These are your Psylocks, your Magics, your Black Panthers, your Spider-Mans. Any hero that can get something done within those 5 seconds of the grace time, he's very good at enabling, especially because you can also just give them 50 bonus health, and now all the matchups where them dying is how they lose, they just don't lose those anymore. You also want to pick it when you have a semi-vulnerable backline, because his peel potential is actually quite good. Getting in a hero's face with your extra bonus health and putting a drone on somebody and putting bonus health on them and even ulting your backline if you really have to, and your damage is good, especially because most people in your backline are not going to have healing put towards them. He's amazing at guarding semi-vulnerable backlines, but if your backline is super wide open, they'll usually just die too fast for you to actually help. You should also pick him with Iron Man. Oh my god, the team up between these two is disgusting, and as of the recent update, where team anchors actually get the bonus no matter what, Iron Man is one of the least relevant because his is just 5% damage boost, and the abilities he provides are so strong. When not to pick them? When they have a really resilient enemy core. So this is going to be heroes that just reset themselves for free, and pressuring them seems to do nothing. There's a bunch of barriers in the way. There's a Groot, there's an Emma Frost Shield, there's a Mag, there's just Cloak and Dagger and Rocket Raccoon and just all these heroes you cannot pressure. That's when it's going to feel bad to pick Ultron. You also are going to struggle on maps that are like virtually all open space. Someone somewhere is going to get an angle on you that you really cannot counterplay, and that's just going to suck. There are ways of mitigating this, and we'll go over this in the gameplay examples, but in the open space, you should be very wary of it. He's also lacking in primary sustain. As I said, his ultimate's really the only exception, but if you don't have a primary sustain hero on your team, you really do not want to pick Ultron. You can get away with other angle supports, especially like an Adam Warlock, because their healing potential is quite high, but not Ultron. He has an upper cap of how much he heals per second, and there's nothing you can do about it aside from ulting. You also don't want to pick him in scenarios where long fights just aren't happening, either because your team isn't geared around it, or because the enemy team just completely prevents it. You also don't want to pick it against any enemy hit scan that you have identified has good aim and will hit you. Hellas of the world, even like Scarlet Witch can be annoying. Black Widow, Hawkeye might as well be hit scan. Punisher, any of these heroes that like they just shoot you 8 times and you die. That's going to be a bad time to pick him. And then, as I said, if your backline is hyper vulnerable, the Cloak and Daggers of the world, the Luna Snows, even like Jeff can really suffer. Maybe not Black Widow, Hawkeye, Hela, any of these backliners that like they get dove and their answer is, man, I sure hope I didn't die. This is when protecting your backline is going to become pretty difficult as Ultron. Here's some team examples. Obviously, these are all going to include Ultron, and these are all going to specify duelists being like a certain quality because there's just so many. You can see that the 3 examples I put here, they all include a primary sustain hero. If you don't have one of these, Loki would also fit into this, and one more. I'm kind of missing one. Am I? Oh, Luna Snow, obviously. So there's 2 other strategists missing from like, hey, that'll just work. When it comes to like what kind of duelist you want, you either want like one duelist that's going to be flexible in their positioning, or they're going to position in isolated areas, or if your backline is more like wide open, you can see the reason this is like Cloak and Dagger just has Fade, and Venom ain't going to do shit against someone diving his backline. Then you want more core duelists that are going to be there kind of behind or in front of you, that can just be there, shoot the guy in your face, and get him out of the way. And then, of course, most of these Vanguards, Penny's the exception, but most of these Vanguards are Resource Cyclers, Venom, Strange, Thing, Emma Frost, Mag. These are just good team examples. Of course, if any of these duelists are Iron Man, that is ideal. The team up. We have to go into detail about this because this actually does change how he works. Iron Man allows Ultron to use Nano Ray. This is an 8-second duration and a 30-second cooldown, and it is probably his best ability. It provides a pierce and hit scan healing that heals over time. It also negates his split fighting weakness very well. Just don't have to worry. Putting a drone plus ray on someone does actually give a pseudo burst healing. It is so much healing per second that you might as well count it as burst healing. The normal lockout animation of putting your drone on someone is significant, but it's usually not debilitating. During Nano Ray, it's around 4 frames. It literally looks like a glitch. We'll try to see if I can find it in my gameplay example here, but good lord, does it look glitched. And then the cooldown starts on activation, not at the end of the duration. This is just a strong thing for any ability of this type to have, and thankfully it's on this ability. Iron Man is also a notably synergistic pick, even if he didn't offer Nano Ray. Iron Man can pressure with Ultron and add burst and pickoff threat to that pressure. Iron Man also beams down most bad matchups for flyers. As much as Ultron can already out pressure like a lot of his bad matchups, like imagine you're Spider-Man and you just get a full burst landed on you before you can engage. That's really annoying. Imagine Iron Man doing that to you instead. Iron Man also gives a reliable drone target for Ultron to solo reset. This is pretty self-explanatory. As long as the Iron Man is also not in the worst position possible, this is generally just going to be true. And also, most ultimates that are going to negate Rage of Ultron are also shut down by Maximum Pulse, just like Luna Snow ulti, Cloak and Dagger ulti. There's a few others. Captain America ult. That's most of them. Oh, Mantis ultimate as well. These ultimates that are just like either a high amount of casual sustain or anything but casual sustain, Iron Man ult just deals with them outright. And then I wanted to address some common perceptions and mainly misconceptions. So the first one here is something that I will validate as, yeah, this is solid, is that Ultron is only picked as a third strategist. I don't disagree, but I think the word only is very unnecessary. We're going to show you a gameplay example where this is not at all the case. He works fine as a second strategist. It's just if your Ultron pilot on your team is bad or you're bad at him, you're going to notice that, yeah, he kind of feels like a worse DPS. Another misconception, Ultron's kit in pressure is weak. I would say the higher up you go, this does become a little true, but I would say his strength is not in the individual strength of his abilities, but just the uptime. The fact that they're always there, they're always working, he's always pressuring, he always has his ultimate. This is the thing that makes him strong. Each individual ability being stronger would actually just break him. He would be the best strategist by far. Ultron also dies easily to divers and hit scan. No, he doesn't. Depending on the map terrain, hit scan will be irrelevant to you. And especially depending on the terrain and depending on how good of an Ultron player you are, or I guess just how good of a game sense player you are, divers are going to be largely irrelevant. Most divers cannot reach you in the skybox, especially if that skybox happens to not give an angle to hit scan. You're just not going to be reachable, but there's also reasons to position in other places. Ultron ult is not effective. This is just flat out untrue. Unless you're a Vanguard like Thor or Penny who just falls over with no way to prevent like a bunch of burst damage, any resource you can use to stall, Ultron is usually going to get that ultimate off, or at least the first burst, and very few pressure sequences can actually outpace the delay between his burst fires of his ultimate. And besides that, even if the healing is not what you use it for, it's good at pressuring the backline, but probably its best use is to counter things like Jeff Ultimate, actually. Jeff Ultimate has no way of really preventing himself from just dying to Rage of Ultron, and because he has mobility to always get out of the range of Jeff Ult, this is very consistent. It is not ineffective. There's also the preconception that he neglects the backline. He neglects hyper-vulnerable backlines that are just prone to falling over from a stiff breeze, but that's it. This is mostly a skill issue. Like, if your Ultron is bad, of course he's going to neglect the backline. Any hero that player picks is going to neglect you. And then Ultron is difficult to keep alive. No, he isn't. I think this is also a skill issue. People are starting to realize that keeping flyers alive, a lot of the onus is on the strategists, and strategists already feel overworked and overtaxed, and I don't disagree, but learning how to keep flyers alive not only will pay off a lot, but it's also way easier than you think. Maybe not on console, but I'd argue even on console it's probably not that hard. Now, this is going to be the end of that slideshow, and instead we're going to cut to Marvel Rivals here. I have a game pulled up. This is me right here, and this is my friend who mains Ultron in competitive, and this is going to be a gameplay example. Of course, this is a 2-0 victory, but this was also a competitive game. Like, this was not trivial. So I just want to show you not only the types of fights Ultron wants, but also what he does when he's not getting what he wants here. So you can see he's going to position pretty conservatively, but he's also always going to be within range of his drone that's attached to Iron Man. And he's mostly going to play with the core. If you don't know the macro terms of games like Overwatch and Marvel Rivals, I hope that the terms are more self-explanatory. You can see here, Squirrel Girl is not a hero that's just going to casually go wherever she wants. Neither is Rocket. So Ultron's playing with the core. Iron Man can play with the core. I'd call him a flex support. And what's important about the core is you just want it not to be compromised. Our Vanguards here are way out on a limb. And you can see one of his weaknesses come into play here. His save potential is not amazing. I'm actually having to work very hard to keep my Vanguard alive. And even though we get a res here, Eventually our Vanguard is going to bleed, and okay, maybe this isn't the fight I'm thinking. Let's run that back. Let's run that back real quick. This is a little unprofessional. That's okay. So we got these 2 pickoffs that basically sealed the deal. So here, you can see he's using Nano Ray. This is Nano Ray. If you want to identify where any flyer is, use things like this. I think only, let's see, Ultron and Iron Man always have this, some kind of beam you can trace back to them. This is how I know console players can do this, because even though looking around is less trivial, noticing this kind of stuff is still something you can do. But Nano Ray plus drone healing plus Rocket Raccoon healing him, you can see Emma Frost is very reliably sustaining most of this damage. And even though Nano Ray runs out, we secure the point. And you can also see he has 60% ultimate. That was a relatively fast fight. This is like not the ideal of what you want, but he still has 60% ultimate. He doesn't care. Now here we're going to see a very big strength here with Iron Man, which is he can enable very isolated angles here. Of course, Iron Man is doing that thing. But this is just going to be slow fight. If I remember right, our Emma Frost actually just does some sick nasty shit here. But you can see Doctor Strange is here. Our entire core is completely cut off from him, but the 5-second grace timer on Heal Drone does actually give him quite a bit of survivability. You can see that Strange only falls low when I'm able to just heal him anyway. And by this time, you can already see he has 83% ultimate. You can also see that in situations like this, where the team fight is split, he's going to use Nano Ray. He's also excellent. I did not touch on this. He's excellent at litter cleanup. I'd be like, what the hell is litter? Litter is going to be Squirrel Go Ultimate, Loki Fields, Namor Summons, Penny Parker shit. Any of these, like, non-headshotable things that you just want to kill pretty fast. He's excellent at clearing them. Really only, like, Penny Nest, Punisher Turret, and Rocket Ult really give him trouble. And even then, he doesn't have to look anywhere else, really. He should sometimes, but he doesn't have to. He can just keep shooting it, and he's getting full value out of his kit, which is not something every hero can say. So you're going to see we keep getting pickoffs, even though they're committing ultimates. This is another thing. He's excellent at ultimate economy, just because his ultimate is so reliable at just not being a waste. That being said, our front line's going to get picked off. We're forced to reset here. Doctor Strange is finally back. So let's see how this team fight plays out. You can see we have both support ultimates. We have Emma Frost, and we also have Iron Man ultimate. So we have 2 non-ultimates, both together. And then we have Rocket, Strange is coming, and Emma Frost. So we have almost 5 ultimates. We're going to build them pretty fast here. And you can see when our team like commits to the engagement and things aren't looking so hot. I believe he uses it here. Maybe I'm wrong. Okay, I'm probably wrong here. If I remember right, this is like the round where we just have 6 ultimates the entire time. But you can even see here, Iron Man is a type of hero where he's just kind of a noob killer because he's going to sit in these angles and just farm your team and nobody's going to look at him. Ultron is one of the best heroes at dealing with this. I mean, seriously, look, 100 bonus health. He just gets in his face. And you can see, even if he's not winning, he's going to make him fuck off. And that's very important for heroes like Iron Man. You can even see he keeps his backline pretty secure. We're getting a bunch of pickoffs. The team fight is just never happening for them. This is also something Ultron excels at, is just like, if the fight never starts, he likes it. He likes it. He just doesn't like really fast fights where his kit does nothing. That's it. So you can see our front lines getting tussled. They're going to have their ultimates soon. They have like, 4.5 of them or something. And here, we're just not going to have a very consistent formation from the enemy team. They're going to keep getting picked off. He's also excellent at punishing these like vanguards that think they're invisible because they just aren't. He's going to do like 240 damage to them over the course of 2 rays, and they're going to be like, oh shit, I'm going to die. So we take this point. Let's start at the next point. I believe this is where the game starts getting more competitive. Yes, this is where it gets more competitive. And you'll even see the carry here on the enemy team is actually magic. So let's go to the, not really start of this. Let's go to like here. Let's get off me. One, if you hear that voice line, no excuses. Just check. If you wish to survive, you must repair me. What do you think that means? Heal him. So enemy teams all over the place with their hero picks. And this can be a weakness of Ultron if they're like quick swapping a lot. Kind of annoying. So you can see, this is the strengths of Iron Man with Ultron. Ultron's ultimate is pretty much worthless against Cloak and Dagger's ultimate, but you can see that issues get taken care of very well. Yes. So let's go to when this matchup starts getting really hard, and that is when this magic starts to connect to our team. So you can see Ultron is going to be aware that magic exists and that she is playing in this area. He's one of the best vision heroes in the game, and as long as you have that vision, most bad matchups like this don't matter. So we're going to see Squirrel get absolutely wrecked. And you can see he's already out of range for magic to engage. He's also not neglecting me. I am at half health, but like you can see I have enough time to stall out my ultimate. Yes, they're going to kill the ultimate, but they're also going to pay with, it should be like 2 heroes, but we get picked off, unfortunately. You can see my rat bastard ass. So you can see he does struggle, but he also has lots of counterplay. He mostly died there because our team fell apart. That's not something Ultron can really do anything about. So we're going to see here Magic's trying to do her thing again, but the key difference is this time he's going to use Rage of Ultron. And you can see they're ulting 2 more expensive ults to deal with this. We have spent 1 Ultron ultimate. 1. 1. And they're going to use C&D and Magic. Let's see how this goes. So you can see Magic's pressure is just completely irrelevant here. And now we're just going to use a kill combo that's pretty reliable with Squirrel Girl plus Emma. And they're going to be very screwed. And even though Magic picks me off, you're going to see that the team fight is just spiraling out of control. Magic just can't reset reliably. And we're going to win here. This is another thing that Ultron's really good at, is stalling his bad matchups. Like, even if he can't overcome them, he's going to waste like 20 seconds of their time. And is it really a bad matchup if you're occupying them for half a minute? I actually don't think so. I think that's a good matchup. But yeah, you can see how comfortable he is with playing in front when he has 100 bonus health. Rage of Ultron would be useless there. Maximum Pulse is not. So even in situations he's struggling, it's not really him that's losing the fight. It's more so a symptom of, okay, just a few things didn't work out. So that's going to be the match win, and that's also going to be the end of this video. To recap, Ultron is not a weak hero. He's not only a exclusive third support, he is in fact probably on par with the likes of, you know, your Mantises, maybe not Adam Warlock, he's kind of busted, but he's also on par with, like, if you play Rocket as an angle support, where like he gets stuff done even if you're not feeling it. He enables heroes in a very specific way that a lot of other strategists are bad at, and his ultimate economy is out of control. Not only is his ultimate great, not only can you spend it for just about whatever, but also, if you think about it, keeping your team alive gives them their ultimates faster, and they can play more aggressive, they can farm more ult charge. So imagine, you know, Emma Frost at 200 health, she doesn't get much ult charge, versus if she's getting reset to her maximum health over and over, and she keeps getting to get charged, and beam you and kick you, she's going to get her ultimate a lot faster. And probably his biggest strength is most heroes that would kill him, he's going to see ahead of time. If you're the type of person that says easier said than done to see where Black Panther is going and not die to him, play Ultron. You will learn how to do it with Ultron. You'll also learn with other heroes. They do it worse, but like, you will learn. You will learn, or you will die over and over to a hero that you can see where he's going, and you have all the tools in the world not to die to him. All right, people. It's been good. I hope I've at least informed you of how to play with Ultron, if not swayed your opinions on how good he is, because he's low-key really strong. And I hope that in future metas where we're not getting like this super abusable Jeff Venom crap going on all the time, you'll see more Ultron, you'll understand why he's actually a strong pick, rather than just, oh, Ultron, my other support, he's throwing, I'm going to die every fight. skill issue, okay? That's not Ultron. That is the player playing him. I'm going to wrap up before I ramble too much. Thank you for watching. Of course, if you want more content, interact with the video, comment about how stupid I am. I don't know. I'm going to see you next time, probably talking about Rocket Raccoon, and maybe I'll make more videos about most of the heroes. I will see you later. Let's wrap it up.